So, in order to know what to do with that little girl, we are going to talk about the common reactions that adults usually have when we approach to a situation like that. Um, these common reactions are not necessarily effective. They are just the ways that we usually react, and that's why they don't feel like somebody is listening and comprehending what's happening. So, what do we usually do? We block the emotions, such as if our kid tell us, "I want to go to the park," and he's crying, and it's not possible to go to the park right now, as we know. We can just say, "You don't have a reason to cry for that because we just can't go to the park." And that's a way of blocking the emotion. It's like trying to not let that emotion happen. Okay. The second a reaction that we have that is a mistake is to deny the emotion, and that is to say no in first place, such as if the our kid is crying because he's having a problem with another, let's say, sibling. We say, no, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't feel that way. Okay, so we deny the emotion, we say no in first place. Or if they fall down, this happens a lot with little kids, we say, oh, no, 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 that's nothing, you don't have to cry for that. Okay. And the third one is to judge the emotion. Oh, you should not feel that way because you know that you really love your brother, or you know that this was unintentional, or you know that we are in the coronavirus situation, so you can't go to the park, so you shouldn't be asking me for that. Okay, so we decide what's best and what not, and we tell them what they should be feeling. Number four is disregard them. So it's like not listening to the emotions at all. Sometimes we do this because we don't have time. Sometimes we do it because we don't even know how to approach it. Or sometimes we ignore them because we think that's going to solve on its own. And sometimes, depending on the child, we need to leave them alone for a little bit because they are too intense in that moment with that situation, experimenting that emotion. Sorry. So sometimes we might decide to wait until it cools down a little bit, and the um, emotion is blocking their um, thoughts, and maybe it's not possible to help them think what's happening because of the emotion. So it might be a good idea sometimes to wait until it cools down a little bit, the emotion, but not systematically, as our kid is expressing an emotion, just in not listen to what they are trying to say. Okay. um, And the fifth common reaction is to give solutions. We immediately, as they are telling us their problem, their emotional problem, we say what they have to do. So if that little girl was crying because she had a problem with another classmate, let's say, playing together, we tend to say, okay, what you should do is to make turns, and so this problem will disappear. And the girl doesn't need that. Really, what she needs is somebody to listen to her and cool down with emotions, and then being able to find her own solution to the problem, because we are not always going to be there to solve the problem or to help them solve the problem. They need to learn how to do it on their own, and how to manage those emotions, those intense emotions. So you're gonna tell me, okay, so what can we do? Because if we do all this and we think we are helping them, but we are not, what are we supposed to do? And the answer is very easy. We need to be like a mirror. And what does this mean? We need to reflect, to show them what they are feeling from the outside. And the best way to do that is to say the same words in a different order or other words, but saying the same meaning that they are trying to tell us. So, as if they tell us that they want to go to the park, we're going to say, oh, yes, you want to go to the park. And if they say, I'm feeling sad because I can't go to the park, okay, I can see your face, you're feeling sad, and the reason is because you want to go to the park. So you see, I say the same thing with different order or with different words but with the same meaning. And so the kid is gonna say, oh wow, my father and mother is listening to me in first place, is or she is listening to me. And then the next step is to say, I understand, I see why you're crying. So the next step is to have empathy with what they are feeling, even if it's not important, even if it's foolish, even if it's something not relevant at all to feel that way, even if we didn't react in the same way. But they are feeling that way, and it's very important to make her or him feel like it's understandable, that is something that happens when we can't do whatever we want to. So we are not telling them we're going to go to the park. We are not telling them, or we're going to have ice cream instead so that you forget about it. We are not telling them you're full. You're being foolish because you're saying something that you know you can't do. We are saying, I understand. I know. I know how it feels when you can't do something that you really want. And after the kid sees that the adult is listening and is understanding, it's much easier to mm, um, make the path, or make the child be able to find a solution, or to say, oh, but you're right. And this is a situation that, like we talked about it, that is very special, and it's gonna go away. So I'm gonna try to find another game to play. That's something that it comes out from the kid. But if we haven't listened, and if we haven't um, make them feel like we are listening and we are understanding, they are probably not going to find a solution. So, just by making questions in that last part of the conversation, we make questions of what could you do? What do you think is best? What can you? What do you think? It's a solution for this? Sometimes they need that, and sometimes they just need someone to hug and to be listened to, and that's all. So we need to decide. Okay. The next tip that I'm going to share is related to the hand, because this tip is about letting the children do things on their own as much as possible. Give them as much autonomy as possible. And like I say, increase autonomy and allow them to make mistakes. Because what we are finding is that a lot of kids don't have enough tolerance to frustration. And that's because we solve the problems for them too early. We should think about what we are doing for them that they could do on their own. I was talking to some parents about this idea one day, and right afterwards, I went for a walk with my children, and I thought I'm gonna try to do this exercise that I just told my parents, because I've always thought that I've given them autonomy. And for example, when my kids were 1 year old, they already ate on their own, and it's possible. And or things like that, right? But then I said, but we all have to reflect on this, even me. So we went to play outside, and my little girl was in the bicycle, and she was riding the bicycle. She um, dropped a little bit, and her shoe came out, and she looked at me, and I immediately went to put the shoe on so that she didn't have to go down the bicycle. And then I thought, oh my God, I'm doing it. I'm also doing it. I'm overprotecting her. If she can stand, come down the bicycle and take the time to put the shoe on and go back and ride the bicycle again, it's gonna take time, yes. It's gonna take maybe effort from her, yes. But I can't cut down that time and that effort, because she's gonna feel much more accomplished if she solves the problem on her own. And so I'm gonna mm, show that we all overprotect our children by this example. If your child comes to you and asks you to help open a bag of chips, what do you think it would be our most common reaction? You think it would be to open the bag for him or her and just handed it back? Do you think it would be teaching him or her how to open by modeling and even taking their hands and model what the movement is to open the bag? Do you think it would be explaining to them what to do, even if we have to take the risk of uh, her or him getting frustrated because they don't do it at the first time, or even if they drop everything down on the floor accidentally because they did it too hard. um, and I can guess that most of us, especially in moments that we are busy, we would open the bag and hand it back to them. So this is just a proof that we all overprotect our children, and that we all have to think about what we are overprotecting too much. And the result of letting them solve the problems on their own is that they increase also the tolerance to frustration. And they learn to take longer time to solve different problems. They learn that they can do it on their own, so that means more self-esteem, more confidence. And they finally learn that their parents are there, but not to solve their problems, just to give them advice and some help if they need, but not to solve the whole process. This is a little boy that's trying to tie his shoes. And most of us, maybe as adults, we would say, oh, you can't do it, I'll help you, I'll do it for you. But then we would cut off the opportunity of that child to get frustrated, to try one time, another time, third time, and not being able to solve his problem. But maybe that's the only way that we can give our children